We're here with Matt, the CFO of a 150-year-old American brand, BISSELL. Anybody watching this probably uses BISSELL products in their home. I know I certainly do. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. BISSELL is a family-owned business, and I've been with the company for a little over 10 years.
Long history. I'm still waiting for my invite to the party in Grand Rapids. What is it like running a company that has that long of a track record? What is it like running a big American brand in this age? We'll talk about AI, obviously, but walk me through, what is it day-to-day like? How do you think about leadership at a company like that?
Yeah, it's an honor to be a part of a company with a legacy like BISSELL. We do things really well, and you want to honor the history of this business and continue to build upon that legacy. A lot of things, Mark BISSELL says quite frequently that our legacy is meant to be passed on, not rested upon. We spend a lot of time honoring that legacy, but you also want to make sure that you use it as an asset and not necessarily a liability. And so, it's a balance between maintaining the things that got you there and do well, but also continuing to push the organization into the next era and innovating and acclimating to whatever's coming from a technology perspective, from a supply chain perspective. There's been several key moments in the company's history where we've pivoted at the right time, or we've seen the trends coming around the corner, and that's what's enabled us to last for 150 years, which is a very rare occurrence for private businesses.
And Anna was the first CEO, female CEO of the company after Melville, the founder, died?
Yep, Anna Sutherland BISSELL was the first female CEO in the US. She took over. Her husband formed the company when he invented the carpet sweeper, patented it, sadly died shortly after that, and she took over, and she was a pioneer in the industry and really got the business off the ground and was the impetus for what BISSELL is today.
Ran it for 20 years.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you talked about technological change. The organization has seen a lot of it. You've been there for 10. How does this time feel different? Is it different? How are you thinking about AI, what it means for a manufacturing organization?
It does feel, I don't know, different, but it feels very significant from a change and an opportunity perspective. We think the technology can be a huge asset for our company, and we're spending a lot of time thinking about strategically where we should be applying AI and automation as a capability to ultimately deliver better products for our customers. We talk about AI as something that should be in service of our strategy and not just a hammer in search of a nail. And so there are certain things we need to do as a CPG company. We need to be able to surface consumer insights and consumer pain points. We need to develop great products that solve those consumer insights, and then we have to find a way to tell that story as effectively as possible and make consumers aware of our product. And it's really that simple, and how do we use technology to do those three things better?
So you get brought a lot of ideas. How are you evaluating technology investments? What does that heuristic look like? What questions are you asking the team? How are you challenging folks to think about the use cases and business cases they bring you?
Yeah, we're approaching it in two ways, both from a bottoms-up and a tops-down perspective. So from a bottoms-up perspective, we're doing a lot of experimentation and just encouraging adoption of these technologies, experimentation with the different tools. Every week, every month, there's a new tool, a new capability from the models, and we just want our associates to be experimenting with it. And it's really surfacing a lot of different insights around specific functions, how they can use the technology to increase their productivity or do something that we've always wanted to do, but we couldn't because it wasn't cost effective or scalable, and now they can do it with these tools. And it's also surfacing power users within the organization that we would have never been able to anticipate as a management team if you try to kind of pick, oh, this is going to be your function that's going to be the champion, or this person's perfectly suited. We're seeing individuals really step up and create a name for themselves by being early adopters of the tool. At the same time, we're also making sure as an executive team that we are focusing our AI investments and our biggest bets on the few areas where we believe that it can be the most impactful right now. And so we want to make sure in those areas that we're not leaving it up to chance, that we embrace this and adopt the technology. And so really finding the right way to apply it and the right partners to help us apply it. For the big bets, it's not something that we're trying to do completely on our own. We have a lot of smart people. We've got a great IT team, but we want to make sure that we're partnering with people that are on the leading edge of this technology and that have already successfully applied it in other industries with other companies and can help us do the same. And so that's how we work with partners like 80/90 to help us solve those big strategic bets.
So we were fortunate to be somebody you partnered with, and we learned a ton. We focused on the product development life cycle, which is critical. Like, walk me through what the journey has been like, how you evaluated us relative to other options in that space, and then we'll get into some of the details of what we actually built.
Well, you guys were, I think, probably our first partner in AI. We started very early with you. I think it was over almost 2 years ago now when we first started talking. And so when we first started, we didn't really know where to even start. And we're very patient with us and helping us evaluate all different aspects of our business where it might be applicable. You were willing to roll up your sleeves, sit within each of the functions, observe the workflows, and help us pinpoint where we might start. I think what we learned from that is we tried to boil the ocean immediately, and it's probably better to do the opposite and start with one or two very specific workflows or use cases where you can get some quick wins and momentum and then continue to build on that over time. And I think we got there eventually with your help in focusing on a couple key processes within our business. And as you mentioned, one of them was within product development, which is the lifeblood of our company. I mean, we have to develop great products and we have to get them to market as quickly as possible. And that's what you guys were helping us enable with one of the processes we covered.
One of our big takeaways in working with you and with other customers is workflows, particularly critical workflows, have tons of idiosyncrasies inside of them. Secrets that exist inside the organization, sometimes they're well documented, sometimes they're not. Us uncovering those and really working with you to redesign certain workflows, bring those to the surface and make sure that they were codified and that we could build technology around them. That was like one big learning that we had. What other learnings did you have in working with us on the part system?
Well, I think that is certainly one of them in terms of there's a lot of institutional knowledge in a 150-year-old company. We have people that have been in the business for 40, 45, 50 years, but extracting that knowledge out of those people is quite an effort. And you need to make sure you do it for continuity's sake, also just because it's very valuable. That's our secret sauce, that's our trade secrets. And so that is one of the learnings is you have to really sit down with those people and translate that into your rules, your systems, so that the next generation can use them. And so there's two. That's one of the things is that as we've grown over the last few years, we've nearly doubled in size over the last 5 years, and a lot of things broke because the institutional knowledge couldn't scale with it. And so that's why you need to build systems and use AI to scale that. I think some of the other learnings that we've had as we've experimented with AI is that the systems of record and systems integrations are some of the hardest parts about taking advantage of this technology and utilizing the tools. Companies like 8090 have the best technical talent in the world, but they don't necessarily have the specific domain expertise with our Oracle ERP instance or our PLM system that we're using. And so certainly requires a lot of collaboration with our internal IT team and your technical team to integrate whatever tools you're building into the day-to-day workflows and systems.
Yeah, it's been a big learning for us as well. Nailing those integrations, getting really good at mapping those and building those quickly is a huge unlock for a project. You talked about momentum and how important it is early in a project. We completely agree. Whether that's modernization, whether that's custom software, whatever it is, early momentum is where I think a lot of projects win or lose. How are you taking some of these learnings you just shared, some of the observations we've been discussing into your next set of projects? How is this going to help as a frame for the next set of investments you guys make?
I think one of the most important things to do is to have buy-in from your functional leads that are really going to be adopting this new tool, this new technology, or leading the change management. Early on, it was a lot of the executive team mandating or pushing down from the top, we're going to partner with 8090, we're going to do something, we're going to look at this tool. And if you don't have the buy-in or the understanding and the adoption from that true functional leader, you're just not going to ever, it's going to be much slower, or you're not going to have the success that you want to have. And you really need that person to buy in, because that frankly is where all the domain expertise lives. They're the ones that really make it successful by helping redesign the workflow, understand the requirements of the workflow. And so we're being much more cognizant around bringing those people along for the ride, or giving them the freedom to go pursue their own tools or partners to better adopt AI within their functions.
It's super important. The person that owns the P&L has to be bought in.
Yes.
It's great if you have the CEO bought in, the CFO bought in, but the P&L owner, the GM of the business area really has to believe. And often they have some of the best ideas about how to transform their function. And if you can show up as a technology partner and help those folks bring that stuff to life, I think it's an incredible lift. So I love that mental model. I have another question. I'm just curious, how do you stay up to date on everything? I know you have a very curated X feed, which we share from time to time,
Yes.
but like, what else are you doing to stay smart on this space and just try and keep pace?
Yeah, it's not easy, and I frequently worry that I'm falling behind with just the pace of change and innovation, but I would say I use 3 different methods for staying up to date. Twitter is certainly one of my main tools. I probably rely on it a little too much, but to me, it's at the leading edge of what's going on and kind of gives you the first signals around where things are starting to change or what things you should start paying attention to. But then you have to sort through those signals to figure out what's real or what's applicable. And I have two methods for doing that. One is I'm in some different operator groups with different executives, text groups, different groups that meet in person, and talking to other operators around what they're actually implementing, what they're actually having success with is a really good filter for figuring out what's real and what's not, but also then talking to leading experts like you guys. And so I've got a network of different vertical applications, consultants, FDE companies that are building those tools and in it every day with companies, and hearing from them what's working and how they're approaching it with companies is another really valuable resource. So between those three resource groups, that allows me to stay up to date on this. And I view that as one of my main responsibilities to the company as an executive, because as we talked about, yes, the functional leaders, the P&L leaders need to be bought in, but they don't have time in their day-to-day to stay up to date on this stuff, or they don't have the networks to do it. And being the person that helps push some of this, and it's a balance because they don't want to have a new tool thrown at them every day, but helping filter that and say, hey, this one's worth looking at, or this is a company you really should talk to, is something I spend a lot of time doing.
Yeah. All right. Biggest way your thinking has changed maybe a year ago to where we are today about what it can do for you, how you think about technology inside the business. What's been the biggest shift if you had to pinpoint one thing?
That's a good question. I think just believing in the ability for AI to actually operate on its own, things like agents that are actually truly running in production for an extended period of time. I'm starting to get really excited with how quickly that capability is evolving. A year ago, there was a lot of talk about this. The companies we were talking to, very few of them could actually put it into production in a way that we could truly rely on and scale as an enterprise. The vast majority of our adoption was our employees using it as a chat tool, or maybe a thought partner in their day-to-day, but we really weren't putting it into production workflows. And I think that has changed drastically in the last year. And so I'm starting to become very optimistic about the ability to leverage true agentic capabilities and automation to drive more productivity, in most cases just do things that we didn't have the bandwidth or capacity to do, using agents as a supplemental workforce to our associates.
The age of the chatbot. I wonder what we'll look back and think about when we think about what that was, how seminal it was for the industry, what it's become, and how agents are like this unique extension of typing words into a box and getting some responses back. That'll be really interesting. Let's talk about the parts system that we built together. We're excited. You're now a public reference for that, so thank you. We're really proud to be able to publish that story. And the headlines on impact there are, we built a parts automation system in that critical product development workflow for you, organizes just over 7,000 parts, drives an 80% plus auto approval rate, and has driven a 50% cost reduction in terms of people, process, and software relative to where the business's baseline was before. Walk me through why you calibrated us on that project and some of the friction that we've eliminated as part of that work together.
Yeah, so the way we set up and manage parts within our PLM system was very manual and inefficient, and required gathering and inputting a lot of data into the system so that we could track these thousands and thousands of parts. And all of that data was being housed within spreadsheets and people's minds. And so that makes it very susceptible to errors, that makes the setup process very slow. And so, in a business where speed to market with your product innovation is critical, streamlining this process, automating a lot of it, reducing the errors that can have significant downstream effects in your product development process are critical. And so that's why we focused you guys on one of those key work streams, figured out where to first start working with 8090.
And I think that one of the things you've told us, at least, and others have as well, about our model that makes us maybe a little bit unique is the way that we design, build, and host this software for you, roadmap of one, and then the subscription, you get maintenance, support, annual upgrades included in that. What about all of that was appealing to you?
Yeah, I think we run a very lean organization, particularly as it relates to our IT department, and so something we are very cognizant of when we consider either building a new application or tool in-house or bringing on a new software is, how are we going to actually maintain that software after we go live with it? A lot of people just focus on what is this capability, what can it do, is it worth it, but they don't ever think about what you do with it after you launch. And so having having a technical partner that can continue to maintain it for us, particularly in the age where there's constant updates to the models coming. There are things to think about like model drift. Should we start to think about how do we do our own training of the model? Those are things we can lean on you guys for, and we don't have to go add additional overhead and headcount to just support this one application.
All right, Matt, thank you.
Yeah.
This was awesome.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me.